Joining me now is Dr. Michelle Ward. She's a criminal psychologist with a PhD in clinical neuroscience, and she's the host of Investigation Discovery's Mind of a Monster podcast. And after interviewing psychopaths and violent murderers for a decade, she's now considered to be the real-life Clarice Starling. Dr. Ward, it's great to have you. Thank you. I'm just going to ask you that question. How do people get in so deep they choose cult over kid?
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for having me. I think to understand that, you have to realize that that does not happen overnight. They don't, you don't join a cult and the next day give your kids. It's a slow burn. It's like the frog in boiling water. They don't know they're being cooked. So once you get to that point, I mean, to begin with, it's a certain type of person, usually looking for clarity, looking for answers, or looking to feel better about something. And then this cult leader offers that. They get love bombed in the beginning. And that's not just for new boyfriends and girlfriends. And so by the time they are sacrificing their children, they're in really, really deep. They've doubled down. The cognitive dissonance is making them commit even further into the beliefs of the cult. And for the most part, you don't get your Lori Vallows out of that. You get the people who believe that their children are either are living with demons or are impure, like you mentioned, and the only way to be a good mother, to save that child, is to kill them. So it's a bit of a different flavor than what we're seeing with Lori Vallow, but just the most important takeaway is they are in so deep at that point, they've taken a break from reality, and often they think it's the best thing they can do for their children.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what the prosecutors want the jury to believe, whether she was so in deep with this religion that she believed she was doing something good by killing these kids and releasing the demons from their physical bodies, or whether she just wanted to remove obstacles to the guy she wanted to shag. And that's Chad, whom she married 2 weeks after his wife was murdered. Or if they really think that she was doing it for money. I mean, it was not a lot of money, right? It was some Social Security benefits, and then I guess Charles Vallow's insurance, but she didn't end up getting the insurance. So what do you think is more sort of in line with what you're seeing with this woman?
Well, I'm also a litigation consultant in my other career, and I think they're just throwing everything at the wall because something's going to stick. I mean, in my perspective, she's an obstacle remover. Yes, she's a little bit wonky, and she has fantastical thinking, but brainwashed or, a cult follower, that's not a great prosecution strategy. It doesn't usually work. So, I'm sorry, it's not a great defense strategy, and it doesn't usually work, but they're not going to just count on that. They're not going to count on she's been brainwashed, it's not her fault, because they don't have to. The prosecution doesn't have to rely on that, even though it's not a great defense, and so, they can hit it hard. What they can rely on is she had motivation well beyond saving their soul. She's an obstacle remover. She wants to be with this next guy. She reminds me of a Susan Smith. We can all remember 1995 or 96 when Susan Smith faked, that she'd been carjacked. She drowns her 2 children by driving her car into a lake, claims that, somebody else did it. And then the reality was it was inconvenient for her to have 2 small children in order to be with this new boyfriend. So I think the prosecution's giving you all sorts of options for why she did this, and something will, I think, stick. And I actually kind of like how they're doing that. They're not just putting all of their eggs in one basket, but really, I mean, it can cut both ways. She's belongs to a cult. They can talk about this break from reality, but even the defense is going to struggle with using that, or because the jurors don't like it. They don't believe it, because we have to remember brainwashing is not giving up free will. And that's a big misconception people have. If you've been brainwashed, you don't become a zombie or a robot just doing what your master says. That's not how. You always have free will.
It's fascinating. Dr. Ward, you're going to have to come back. Thank you so much for this.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.